What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with some Destiny updates. And we're going to talk about a bunch of content updates this week, as well as a bunch of things to bear in mind with the weekly reset that's coming up. So firstly, we are getting a new game update. That'll probably bring a handful of changes, but it will also include the new map pack. And of course, we're getting access to free maps this week. There'll also be some server downtime ahead of that update, but we'll talk about the new playlist and additional rewards, as well as some items to start preparing for the final shape. And this week's reset is a perfect time to begin that process. But additionally, we'll get another Archie quest, this time in the EDZ, so we'll talk about the relevant locations, as well as the upcoming Pantheon for this week, and some ways to maximize potential gains there. So, a few things to touch on guys. As always, I hope you find the video useful, and if you do, a rating below really does help us out, but now, let's get into it. And first up, with there being yet another update this week, we are going to see a little bit of server downtime immediately before the reset, so Bungie have said at 6:45 AM PDT, Destiny 2 will be brought offline for expected maintenance, and so servers will go down about 3 hours before the weekly reset, and then all being well, if the servers behave themselves, we will get the update at 10 AM PDT, which is the normal weekly reset time, and then maintenance is expected to conclude 2 hours later at midday Pacific time. So keep that in mind, and I will keep you up to date if we get any additional changes worth knowing about later on. But one of the main reasons for the update is the PvP map pack, where we're getting 3 new PvP maps, one on Europa, another on Neomuna, and a pyramid ship map. And these will be available for all players. Plus Bungie have said they're going to be featured on a separate 3v3 playlist called New Territory that'll allow players to enjoy the new experience these maps offer without having to hunt them down inside of the normal playlists. But Bungie add the playlist will replace the 3v3 quick play node and feature survival, elimination, clash, and collision on the new map. So keep that in mind, but before you jump in, be sure to visit Lord Shaxx as he will have a new quest. And finally, Bungie say New Territory will be available until the end of this season, at which point any player who engaged in the playlist will be awarded the new emblem, which is called Staycation. So it sounds like the emblem itself will drop later on, but by entering into that playlist at least once, it's something that we'll get access to, so keep it in mind. Next up though, as Bungie revealed a few days back, starting in the final shape, Raoul is going to be the source for any new exotic armor that's released. And so he'll introduce a new rewards program which is tied to the brand new reputation track. And essentially, once we max out Raoul's rank, we'll get access to a new tier of focusing called Engram Insiders. And here we'll be able to focus for brand new exotic armor pieces for final shape. So there's been some mixed feedback about this. It's certainly not the most inspiring system. However, Bungie did say in terms of how long it will take to get to this tier of focusing, without going into exact numbers, the actions that'll give the most reputation will be precision decryption, which is tier 2 focusing, followed by advanced decryption. And so they've said if players want to be ready for the Witness's forces as soon as possible, make sure to stock up on exotic engrams and ascendant shards before June 4th. As with a little more than a full stock of exotic engrams, we'll be able to start focusing for new armor. So this week is a great opportunity to start saving those if you haven't already. And if new armor in final shape is going to be your main focus, it's certainly going to be worth holding on to exotic engrams and getting as many ascendant shards as possible in the next month leading up to the final shape. So certainly worth being aware of that with the reset this week. And moving on, we're going to get the third of the Archie quests. And these are sort of fun quests that drop random items as well as some trophies of bravery, so they have some amount of utility, and otherwise they're essentially just for fun. We are getting a new one this week, but Bungie said we've seen confusion around the weekly Archie Hunt quests and want to offer clarification. These quests are only intended to be available for 1 week each, and were made with this time limit in mind. They say that's why they made the shader available for completion of any of the weekly quests, and they add that the lore attached to the triumphs will become available to all players in the final shape on June 4th, but otherwise, each of the Archie quests that come out is featured for that week only and then goes away forever. So if you do want to complete them, you essentially need to do them inside of the weekly reset. This week, we should be seeing Archie in the EDZ, but I believe starting the quest will be the same. So if we head to the annex in the tower, interact with the Archie footprints, Ada 1 will give us the quest for the week. And for EDZ, we initially need to visit Devrim K to ask about Archie's whereabouts, so we can head to the Trustland and find Devrim in the church. Then step 2 says Archie heard about some feathers behind the fireplace. He's hoping to find a glowing bird, and this relates to the intro to the Hawkmoon mission. So opposite the church in the EDZ, on the first floor of the building over here, there's a small fireplace that you can spot. This is where we originally got into the Hawkmoon mission, and that's what's being referenced in the quest, so we should find footprints here. And then the next step is that Archie heard Guardians have picked up a chill new hobby called fishing, and he went to check it out. So the fishing spot for the European Dead Zone is in the outskirts part of the map that you can see here. So you can sparrow from Trossland round to the outskirts, and presumably the footprints will be around the fishing pond itself. So that will be the next location. And the next one is that Archie heard about a ship full of tanks and space rhinos, and this seems to be referencing the giant ship in the Sunken Isles, which is the load zone right at the north of the EDZ. And it seems most likely that we'll need to actually enter the ship via the ramp in the Sunken Isles, so heading in the same direction of the arms dealer strike, it looks likely that we'll find Archie on the way to Echion Hold, which is the big room inside of the ship that can be accessed from patrol. Failing that, the other possibility is that Archie will be in the Lost Sector, which is immediately beneath this ship. But the next stop, and Archie heard some Guardians talking about the place where we reclaimed the light and some cool floating rocks there, and this is referencing the Dark Forest in the EDZ, which can be found via the sludge. So if you fast travel to the sludge, head forward a little bit, and then take the enclave on the right hand side. We head through a bunch of caves, and then we find the zone with the entrance to the Dark Forest. The portal doesn't spawn in patrol, but we got the floating rocks above where the portal would be. And it seems likely that this will be Archie's last stop. We'll possibly find a boss here as well, like we did in the Cosmodrome version last week. And then the very last step is to return to Ada 1 in the annex of the tower. So that is the Archie quest for the week. I won't necessarily have time to cover it at the weekly reset itself, so I figured a quick heads up for those locations may be helpful for some folks who want to go after Archie at reset. Lastly though, of course, we get the second Pantheon challenge this week, and this one is Oryx Exalted. I'm not sure if we need to visit Lord Shaxx in the Hall of Champions again in order to kick this off, as there may be a new quest, so look out for that, but otherwise, the encounters include Golgoroth, Caretaker, Macrocosm, Atrax 1, and Oryx. And if we can get the completion this week, we'll get the Exalted Beyond Oryx emblem. And of course, there'll be legendary and potentially exotic rewards once again this reset. Plus, if you want to take advantage of earning spoils of conquest, Catpat Hat Hat on Reddit pointed out that we get a bunch for every encounter we clear, and then there are more for the triumphs from completing Pantheon, and each character can get additional spoils for earning the high score completion on each encounter. So theoretically, if spoils of conquest are of interest, you could run this on 3 characters this week and get around 200 spoils, which is absolutely crazy. And if you were to do that all the way up into the final shape, many hundreds of spoils of conquest will be available. So that's something to keep in mind if you are heading into Pantheon and you want to collect spoils and pick up any particular pieces of gear with them. So keep that in mind, but those are some additional, slightly more detailed heads up, I suppose, for the reset this week. As always, I'll keep you posted when reset itself drops with additional patch notes, vendors, and stuff like that, so keep it locked and loaded here on the channel. Otherwise, I hope the preview has been useful, and if it has, a rating below really does help us out. And additionally, let us know what you'll be doing first this reset down in the comment section. Otherwise though, I appreciate you tuning in, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.